This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How we doing today on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral this beautiful Thursday? Hope you guys are doing well. We're hanging out here on the BamaCentral YouTube channel or hanging out on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever your favorite social media machine is at Joe Gaither 6. And you can always find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon if you want to tune into us that way. We appreciate everybody who is subscribing, rating, reviewing the show, sending the show to their friends, as we are always growing one listener at a time. So we appreciate you guys. And we are going to have, hopefully, a lot of fun right here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Gaither Show. We're going to talk about Alabama and South Carolina as the Crimson Tide looks to get back on track. We're going to talk about T-shirt gate a little bit more as, oh my gosh, I cannot even believe it. But Kalen DeBoer addressed or had it addressed to him the last night, his attire on the sidelines, whether it be appropriate or inappropriate. And you can let me know your thoughts and your comments on that topic and every topic at Joe Gaither 6. You can send me a comment, question, query, or complaint. Then we'll talk about keys to beating South Carolina, the actual football, the actual juice, the actual meat, not any of these ancillary stuff that we're dealing with T-shirts and polos and pullovers, whatever you want to talk about with attire. But we'll talk about keys to beating South Carolina. And then as we have done each and every Thursday before an Alabama game, we'll pick our 3 players of the week. Oh, my gosh, I felt so good about my picks last week, and they let me down. I'm sure your picks let you down as well. So we'll pick our 3 picks for players of the week. As always, we want to let you know that we're broadcasting live right here in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios, right here in Northport. We're a mile off McFarland Boulevard. You can come see us today just past the Tiger Rock on the left. Call Derek Daniel and his team, 205-758-3391. Call and see how much Derek can save you today. We always appreciate Derek for having us right here in his studios. And so let's talk some Alabama football. And let's go back to last night. Oh, my gosh. Let's go back to last night, and let's go back to Hey Coach. As my man Spencer Reveley comments on Facebook, Roll Tide, Joe. Roll Tide right back to you, Spencer. We appreciate you for tuning into the show and joining us. Let's talk about last night. Hey, Coach. Kalen DeBoer is on there, and he's answering all the questions about the loss. And, yeah, we thought we were prepared, but obviously, we weren't, and this, that, and the other. But a couple of callers are joking, and they handled it in a joking way. They handled it in jest, but basically said, Coach, don't you realize you're under fire right now for your dress code, for what you're wearing on the sidelines? And look, if you're blind, we'll just describe it to you. What he's been wearing on the sidelines looks like a PE teacher, in my opinion. Now, first couple of weeks, he's dressed in a T-shirt and black Alabama T-shirt and some shorts. Now he goes up to Wisconsin, and it's kind of great sweatpants and black Alabama hoodie with the big Alabama over the chest. Last week is really where all the scrutiny kind of blew up because of the loss. But last week it blows up again. He's wearing ball cap. He's wearing white Alabama dry fit T-shirt, and he's wearing crimson athletic shorts. What's the deal? Who cares? I mean, what we care about is the results on the field, or it should be what you care about. But he is under fire. And yesterday, hey, Coach, I've heard. So what? First off, if you have been not watching games from the couch, if you've been watching games inside Bryant-Denny Stadium or up in Madison or, over there in First Bank Stadium in Nashville, it's been pretty toasty, especially here in the South. And it was pretty toasty this past Saturday in Nashville. Not like 1,000 degrees, but toasty. And if you've never been on a sideline, if you've spent all your life in the stands, that's A-okay. There's no judgment there. But if you've never been on a sideline, the synthetic turf makes everything so much hotter. The temperature, let's just say it's 93 degrees. The synthetic turf will make it basically, well, it just absorbs the heat, absorbs the sun, absorbs the energy, and on the field, it ends up being like 101, 102. It ends up being like 100. So it's toasty down there on the field. And we want our guys to be comfortable and be true to themselves. Now, I do have, you can call me a boomer. You can throw me into the silly category with Christian Robinson wearing the blue shirt because there is no blue anywhere in the Alabama color wheel. But we addressed that on Monday or Tuesday when we basically said that Christian Robinson's wearing blue, or we think Christian Robinson is wearing blue so that he is easily identifiable on the sidelines for his guys so they can see the signal, so they can get their instructions. I really think there's a strategic reason why Christian Robinson is wearing blue. Now, Christian Robinson said that when his daughter is born, his significant other is expecting, and his daughter, I think, is expecting to be born in November. He said he's going to be trying to get a pink shirt on the sidelines. Great, nothing wrong with that. I think there's a strategic advantage here. Why do we care about what Coach Kalen DeBoer wears? Why has that been a whole thing this whole week? Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowls wearing long sleeve or cut off sleeveless hoodies. Like how low fashion is that? Cutting the sleeves off your hoodies, that is disgusting. As far as and look, I'm not a fashionista. You guys can probably watch the show and tell that. Check out my social medias and tell that. I do try to dress as nicely as I can, but a lot of that is in order to make up for deficiencies. I don't think Bill Belichick was trying to make up for any deficiencies. And I don't really think that Kalen DeBoer really thought of himself while getting dressed any of these Saturdays like, oh, I got to make up for not being prepared. I got to make up for not being ready to play by, at least faking it, fake it till you make it, dress to impress. I don't think that went into his mind at all. And so Bill Belichick wins Super Bowls in hoodies. Matt Patricia and some of these other, some of these losers. I don't think the dress code matters one bit. Nick Saban and his staff, obviously, we addressed it on Tuesday with they all had the matching polos and looked to uniformity. I think that part of the reason for that is because it took a little bit of the decision making out of game day for that coaching staff regime. Everybody knew that, the guys are in white, we're all in crimson. The guys are in crimson, we're all in white. And the coaching polos are put out by the equipment staff, and boom, it's over. You don't even have to think about it. So, Kalen DeBoer, what are you going to do on Saturday? What are you going to do? Is your wife going to have you dressed in a polo? Is your wife going to have you dressed in a button-down, or is she not even involved in this decision? Because I would imagine, just based on what I know from Kalen DeBoer in the last 6 months, we've gotten to know him since January. I guess it's now, 10 months. We've gotten to know him since January. I would imagine that he doesn't give a rip about Billy Gump 123 on Twitter saying you should wear a tie, you should wear a polo, you should wear a collar. I imagine that I imagine he's very insulated from that, and that's not even really on his radar. I think that, as he was joking last night on Hey Coach, I think that he was kind of poking a little bit of fun of how seriously the Alabama fans take every little thing. And now that there is a loss on the table, how much scrutiny every little thing gets. But I do wonder if the coach, the DeBoer family, as they are new to Tuscaloosa, I don't know them, so this is all speculation, definitely speculation here. But I do wonder if maybe any of the online noise bothers the rest of the family members to say, hey, dad, hey, husband, why don't you wear this polo? Why don't you wear this? Why don't you wear that? And I imagine that he's the type to just roll with it. Oh, sure. All right. No big deal. I'll wear this polo. I'm going to coach the game. I don't think he thinks or cares one bit about what he's wearing. So it's going to be very interesting, at least just from an off-the-field standpoint, from a social media standpoint, what he's going to be wearing on Saturday. If I were Coach DeBoer, I'd wear the exact same outfit. Obviously, you throw everything in the washing machine from last Saturday, but I would wear the same exact outfit. I would. Just to bother the people who chose to use that, who chose to make that their talking point, to make that their biggest. We're gonna die on this hill. Coach DeBoer needs to wear a polo. Look, if Coach DeBoer wants to wear a white beater on the sidelines, as long as he's putting up a bunch of points and winning games, it doesn't matter. The reason everybody was upset was because Alabama lost. What he wore last week and what he's worn the last 5 weeks is insignificant in terms of his coaching ability, and it is not a correlation in terms of attention to detail. I just hope that the man is clothed on Saturday. Wear something on Saturday and call the right plays, dial the right plays, get the guys motivated, get the guys fired up, get the guys more fired up than you had them all this past Saturday. I'm less worried about what is on his back and more worried about what's coming out of his mouth, what's in his heart, and really what's in his brain, how he is guiding Alabama forward. You can let me know what you think about Coach DeBoer's dress. If you think that it matters, tell me why it matters. Tell me why, and because I'm going to press you on it. Because people say, oh, Joe, if he's wearing a polo, then all his players will respect him more. I don't know that matters at all. Especially considering the respect that people have for Bill Belichick. Oh, Joe, if he's wearing a polo, it just shows how much he cares. Well, I don't think. Do you want him really worried about or making decisions on what he's wearing on Saturday, or do you want him really grinding the tape and really preparing the game plan and really making sure that all his I's are dotted and T's are crossed? No, look, that what he's wearing is the least of your worries. I know you're upset because Alabama lost, and I get that, and it's totally okay to be processing those emotions that way. But as you're processing your emotions, processing your disappointment, realize that what he is wearing had no bearing on the results, had no bearing on the penalties, had no bearing on maybe some of the questionable decisions that ended up happening on Saturday. I think that it's just a string for some of the fans to pull on, to gripe with, because Alabama lost. All right, let's keep going because I don't want to spend another minute on what Kalen DeBoer's wearing. I don't care what he's wearing. I won't care what he's wearing. Let's talk about South Carolina because you got to move on. We tried to do it a little bit, a little bit on Tuesday, and then obviously we did not have a show yesterday. Was that the case? Yeah, we didn't have a show yet. Oh my gosh, all my days are running together. we didn't have a show either Tuesday or Wednesday, one of the days, but we've had two already. We've started to move on. We gave in an initial first look. Yeah, it was Tuesday that we didn't have a show. We did an initial look at South Carolina yesterday. And if you want to hear about 10 minutes of just kind of vague South Carolina thoughts, you can find that on yesterday's episode, the Joe Gaither Show, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Amazon. But let's talk about keys to beating South Carolina, winning this game. Because what we saw yesterday, and when we spent most of the evening watching South Carolina play Ole Miss, LSU, and Kentucky, what we saw yesterday is, again, I think that Lenora Sellers is a very poor man's Jalen Milroe. Not near the athlete that Jalen Milroe is, but he is a runner. Good little arm, not great. Not as accurate as Jalen, but capable of throwing the football. Can throw the football. Robbie Ashford, the other quarterback, better athlete, in my opinion, than Lenora Sellers. Faster, quicker athlete than Lenora Sellers. But I'm sorry, Robbie, you're totally deficient in throwing the football. You cannot throw the football very well at all. Yeah, you can complete some of these passes underneath and can heave up a prayer for sure, but deficient. So for Alabama, I think the keys are exactly as they were last week. Win your box individually. Will you win your box individually? Will you decide to fill your gaps and stop Raheem Sanders, the transfer from Arkansas? Will you win your box? That's all it comes down to. Because I don't think that South Carolina's athletes, they got a wide receiver who's really, really fast. They do. And Rocket Sanders is a really good running back. Is their offensive line imposing? No, they're good. They're an average offensive line in the SEC. Lenora Sellers and Robbie Ashford, neither of them impress me. Neither of them are quarterbacks that should be beating Alabama. Now, Diego Pavia, from a skill set perspective last week, should not have been beating Alabama. But as a leader, Diego Pavia was just exuding leadership all season long. He's been doing it. I'm not sure that Lenora Sellers, I'm not sure that Robbie Ashford have that same sort of pulse on their team that Diego Pavia did last week. I'm not going to sit here and do what I did last week and say that Alabama can't lose. Alabama can lose. Sure, you play as poorly as you did last week. You play as uninspired as you did last week, because that's really what it came down to. You can blame the scheme. You can blame creativity, whatever. It was all about lack of inspiration, lack of wanting to be on First Bank Field with the Vanderbilt Commodores. And I don't really know where that stems from. But if Alabama is not inspired on Saturday, yeah, South Carolina can beat them. I know South Carolina did not look like they had any life against Ole Miss this past week. But I think that, they have enough danger. They have enough tools that Alabama can't take it lightly. Shoot, shouldn't have taken last week's lightly. Should have won. Should have been able to win taking it lightly, but just learn a lesson for all of us. The new college football, the post-Nick Saban era, everybody is dangerous. And so for Alabama's defense, to circle back and to hammer this point home, for the key to the drill is to win your box, is to do your job with efficiency, is to rush with integrity. I think you have to rush Lenore Sellers with integrity. Same with Robbie Ashford. It just depends on what Kane Womack wants to do. Does Kane Womack want to rush the two quarterbacks to try to get after them and sack them? Or does he kind of want to rush them to hem them in the pocket, keep them from escaping and getting after it that way? I think my prediction is that Kane Womack's going to be trying to get after him, going to be trying to ramp up the heat and force him into some turnovers, force him into some bad decisions. We've seen Lenore Sellers turn the football over a time or two. Same with Robbie Ashford. I think that that's really going to be what Kane does, but it's going to be very important for the defensive linemen to maintain their rush lanes, not letting these guys escape and get down the field in some broken play situations. If you can maintain your rush lanes, if you can fill your gaps and tackle, goodness gracious, we spent all day Monday talking about tackling, and the Alabama defense just chose not to tackle this past week as a whole. Sure, there was a tackle here and there, but as a whole, just poor tackle. You got to tackle this week. Rocket Sanders is going to run right through your arm tackles if that's what you decide to do on Saturday. If that's what happens, if you're there just flailing your arms at Rocket Sanders, if you're flailing, Lenore Sellers is a big SOB. He's a big dude. He's going to run right through your arm tackles. And so you've got to bring your feet. You've got to bring your rear end, and you've got to run through your tackles and get these guys on the ground. If you can do that, then from a skill set, schematically, you should have South Carolina hemmed in offensively. Really struggling throwing the football. Good little running game. Little versatility. Not as much versatility as last week. Not as a dynamic quarterback as last week. Good little running back. I really do like Rocket Sanders. But I think that it's just as simple as that. Do your job, and you win the game. Do your job, and you contain them offensively. Now, continue. Let's flip it to the other side of the ball. Offensive. I think you have to start fast offensively. And look, this has not really been an issue. It's not really been an issue for Alabama this year. They've been pretty good at starting fast. Obviously, throwing a pick six on the first drive last week's not going to do it. But they scored 4 times. Five different drives on 9 possessions. So doing pretty well, cashing in. But I think it's going to be very important because, look, you've got the dreaded A word hanging over this team after Malachi Moore dropped it on Tuesday, right? You've got the dreaded A word after the loss. The anxiety is hanging over this team. And so what's the quickest way to cure anxiety or to settle anxiety from a football perspective? Get the offense out there, march right down the field and score. Hey, baby, we're not getting in 3rd and longs. We're staying on schedule. It's 1st and 6. It's 1st and 10. Oh, now it's 2nd and 6. And here it's 3rd and 2. And bam, we're exploding for big plays. And so I think it's very important. I think the offense, I think Jalen Milroe, Tyler Booker, I think the leaders of this team on the offensive side can band together and say, hey, we can really set the tone for Saturday by starting fast, by marching straight down the field. And whether it's a sustained drive or a one-play touchdown to Ryan Williams or a big explosive run, I think it's very, very important to get on the scoreboard very, very early. That way, you give the defense just a little bit of cushion. You give the defense just a little bit of, hey, guys, we got you. Your back's not against the wall. If you can't get a stop, it's not the end of the world. Kind of felt like it last Saturday in Nashville. Every time the offense scored, the defense was just going back out there just to, getting marched right back down the field. And if the offense was not able to match Vanderbilt, then it felt like it just snowballed, and that's exactly what happened. So I think for Alabama's offense, if you start quickly, you can alleviate a lot of the anxiety that's permeating through the Alabama fan base at the moment. Now, on that same track, I think you really got to get the running game going. I've loved watching Jalen Milroe run, and I am a big-time Jalen Milroe fan. I love to watch his game. I love what he has done from a leadership standpoint, playing quarterback, and really just his growth as a quarterback, going from struggling to read the field to really having a good command, But I have been disappointed this season with Alabama football and its inability to get the running backs going consistently. Yeah, Jam got himself in the end zone, and Jam's been good throughout the year. But you just have had a small element of, oh, man, we'll call this run play, and we'll see if it can get us 90 yards or 2 yards. There's no real in between. There's no just we're biting off 4 yards. We're biting off 4 yards. We're just going to bite off 4, 5, 6 yards and blow you off the ball each and every time. It seems a little bit in the running game of, we got to scheme the right play. We got to pick the right gap. We got to catch you in the right run blitz. We got to catch you in the right stunt. I mean, obviously, pin and pull has worked very, very well all year long, and getting out on the perimeter has worked very, very well all year long. But I just have struggled. There's been a little bit of inconsistency in the run game for me that I would like to see ironed out. And you have an opportunity to iron it out because South Carolina, while their defensive front is really good, I don't want to make any bones about it. The defensive front is very, very, very good. But they're really good at penetration. They're really good at rushing the passer. They're really good at getting to the passer, affecting the quarterback. What they've struggled with, I mean, they give 137, 132, 140 in 3 straight SEC games, right? Rushing to Kentucky, Ole Miss, and LSU. LSU had a running back go for like 98 yards. Sumo Karnbay from Kentucky went for 70 yards. Ole Miss's guy, Paris Jr., went for like 86 yards. I think it's going to be very important to have a traditional running back. No disrespect, no hate on Jalen Milroe, but a traditional running back, run between the tackles, get going, add that element to this Alabama offense, get physical, get downhill. I think South Carolina's defense really sets up nicely to just really attack it. Not east and west, but north and south. You look at their tackles for losses in SEC games. You can see that on BamaCentral.com. I posted it this morning with our morning cover, kind of featuring the South Carolina defensive line. Almost all of South Carolina's tackles for losses are for bubble screens, swing passes, jet sweeps. Everything's east and west. And the South Carolina defense is really, really nice in pursuit. They are. All their tackles for a loss in traditional under center plays where the offense is going after the defense have come in goal line situations where the field's really condensed and South Carolina's gotten more than just the 2 or 3 or 4 defensive linemen on the field, where they have really got 4, 5, 6 defensive linemen and they're coming after you. So because of that, I'm just Johnny Nobody. I'm not a coach. I'm seeing this and I'm saying, hey, guys, you got to get after them downhill ASAP because they're really good in pursuit. Let's not mess around with any of these swing passes. They're not messing around with any of these jet sweeps this week, any of that action. Get after them getting downhill. It's been an area that Alabama has struggled in this season, objectively. But I think this presents an opportunity to make an improvement in that area or put some good tape in that area this weekend. Now, continuing on this, I think you have to offensively be aware of Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. And it's going to be a really challenging game. And we'll continue to address that in our next segment when we talk about our 3 players to watch. But Kyle Kennard, transfer from Georgia Tech. Dylan Stewart, 5-star freshman out of Washington, D.C. These 2 guys are terrorizing the edge for South Carolina, and they're doing a great job. They are doing a great job. And I think that you got to be aware of them basically every single snap. You got to be aware of what your blocking plan is with these guys. Are you going to leave Elijah Pritchett or Caden Proctor on islands? Are you going to help Proctor? Are you going to help Pritchett? Who's getting the help? Is the help going to be more dictated to Kennard, or is it going to be dictated to Stewart? What's the plan of action? Now, Dylan Stewart's got a great motor. One thing about South Carolina that you've seen in the LSU game and in the Ole Miss game, lots of offsides penalties. These guys are eager to get into the backfield, to create some havoc. And so I think that might be a small area that Alabama can take advantage of, maybe mess with some snap counts. Now, look, it's not really been an area that Alabama has shown a lot in this year. You haven't manipulated the snap count too much this year, and you don't want to get behind the sticks with some false starts. That can easily happen. But South Carolina has shown some propensity to be undisciplined up front. And so because of that, I wonder if Alabama is going to work in a couple of hard counts this week to try to steal some free 5 yards here and there. So I think your keys offensively are run the football, get the ball out quickly. If you're Jalen Milroe, get the ball out quickly because of the defensive presence. But on that same track, South Carolina's mixed up front. They're going to mix up 3-man front, 4-man front, 5-man front. They're going to mix up a lot of fronts, and even sometimes 6 guys up front. You're going to have guys, multiple guys rushing. You're going to have guys dropping out. They're going to change the picture on Jalen Milroe a lot. And because of that, I think that Jalen Milroe, this serves as a really great opportunity for him to show that, okay, I can deal with a high-level defensive line. I can deal with a high-level defensive line with that is paired with a scheme that I won't say it's like the most complicated scheme I've ever seen, but they're doing a lot. They're mixing a lot of looks up. They're bringing pressure from different areas of the different parts of the field. They're zone blitzing. They're dropping guys out from the defensive line. They're giving you a lot. So I think this is a really great opportunity for Jalen Milroe to kind of show off the cerebral part of his game, setting the protections correctly pre-snap, based on where Tonka Hemingway, based on where Kyle Kennard, based on where Dylan Stewart is, whatever the game plan is, whatever they talked about before the game is. But I think it's going to be a great opportunity for Jalen to show I can set the protection, I can anticipate pressure, I can get the ball out quickly. I know where my reads are. I know where some of the answers are when the problems arise. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch Jalen Milroe just operate the offense. Now, we got one more segment here, and it's on 3 players to watch. But before we do that, we need to tell you about our friends at Purple Turtle Roofing. You can find them. They're the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. They're the leading experts in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5. That's 877-787-6635 to schedule your appointment, and one of their qualified employees will come check out your roof for free and make sure you're prepared for any and all of life's storms. You can visit them online today at roofturtle.com. And as always, we appreciate broadcasting live right here from the Derek Daniels State Farm Studio. Call 205-758-3391. Call and see how much Derek can save you today. We got one more segment on the show today, and we're going to wrap it up by identifying 3 players to watch. Now, last week, oh my gosh, I felt so good. I had C.J. Dupree, I had Jihad Campbell, and I had Quay Russaw. Now, I should have picked. I had the right position. I had the right position. The Wolf. Quay Russaw was not that Wolf. It was Quandarius Robinson, who had himself 3 tackles for a loss. I liked C.J. Dupree's game, but it wasn't enough. C.J. getting a couple of big receptions, but I thought it was going to be much more as the day continued. That did not happen. And then Jihad Campbell. Jihad filled up the stat sheet. I think he had 8, 9, 10 tackles, but I feel really bad counting that as a win because Jihad was one of the ones that struggled at the point of attack, struggled to tackle, that struggled with allowing yards after contact. And while I am a big Jihad Campbell fan, I love his game, I have a hard time counting that as a win. So 0 for 3. Oh, no. Is that my first 0 for 3 week this year? Well, I've picked 3 guys. I've picked 3 guys, 2 that I think are going to have a really, really good game, and 1 that I think has to have at least an average game for Alabama to have a successful time on Saturday. Man, and so here we go. I'm going back to the well with Jam Miller. For a lot of the things that we talked about earlier. Sumo Karnbay from Kentucky had himself a good little game. Paris Jr. from Ole Miss had himself a good little game. And the LSU was working with like the fourth string running back and he had himself like 98 yards as well. And so I think that Jam Miller is poised. Last week didn't look good for anyone. And there's been a lot of questions this week, and I'm not going to say that the Allen coaching staff bends to the media. No, that's not the case. But there have been a lot of questions this week about Jam and Justice's usage in a traditional fashion. Most of those questions were answered with, oh, well, those guys do such a great job in blocking. Oh, those guys do such a great job in pass protection. And they have. They absolutely have. And that is absolutely a big part of a running back's job. You've got to be able to block on the perimeter when that's called for, and you have to be able to help in pass protection. If you can't help in pass protection, you become a liability, and basically other teams can understand or can predict whether you're running or passing based on your usage. And so it's great that Justice and it's great that Jam have become effective blockers. But goodness gracious, really disappointed with the overall usage. Now, you've had some big plays. You've had some busted open runs where Jam's found himself some holes and busted it open, where Justice has found himself busting open some holes. But just, and look, that might be my curmudgeon. That might be you're old school Joe, and this is a passing game now. And look, I love to pass the football. I love to go for it on fourth down. I love analytics. But you got two, and maybe I'm wrong, but I see two just absolute studs in the Alabama backfield, and I wonder what is it going to take to get these guys unleashed. And so Jam Miller becomes one of my picks for player of the game. Now, number two, I'm going maybe for the controversy factor, maybe for the juice factor. I loved a little bit of juice. I'm going with Malachi Moore. I think that after this past week, now Malachi filled up the stat sheet. I think he had 10 tackles against Vanderbilt. But I think that Malachi, after this past week and all the noise, is going to be very eager to stick his nose in there to create some turnovers. We remember the forced fumble against Wisconsin. I think Malachi is going to be really eager to, I'm not going to say quiet the haters, because that's not going to happen. People are still going to be upset about what happened last week. But eager to put different tape into the national ethos. I think he's going to be very eager to put, oh, this is my big tackle from Saturday against South Carolina. Oh, here's me intercepting Lenore Sellers. Oh, here's me recovering a fumble. I think Malachi Moore is going to have himself a really, really, really good game for Alabama on Saturday. So Jam Miller and Malachi Moore are 1 and 2. And number 3, I'm not sure if this guy's going to have a good game, because my confidence is fairly low. But he needs to have a good game. Alabama needs for him to have a good game if they want to have a successful day. Jalen Milroe needs for this player to have a good game. And it's Elijah Pritchett. Elijah Pritchett, what a story that he has been this year, from not a starter because maybe work ethic questions, dedication questions, to coming in to save the South Florida game, to making the offensive line basically rock solid against Wisconsin and Georgia. And then this past week, Elijah, one of the ugliest incidents I think I've ever seen. Maybe that's hyperbole. Maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too much. But you've got Alabama going down the field in the second half, and you have a big old chunk play. I think we talked about it the other day, right? Elijah's jawing at the Vanderbilt guy, gets pulled away by Jalen Milroe or by Jaden Roberts, and then gives up the sack fumble. And now this week, Elijah, your assignment is massive. Your assignment is extremely big. You're either getting Kyle Kennard or Dylan Stewart, almost play in or play out. You're getting Kyle Kennard, I think, is a fifth-year player. You're getting a graduate-level player transferred in from Georgia Tech, or you're getting a five-star freshman who is just oozing with talent. And you're going to probably have to block him a lot, block either one of these guys one-on-one a lot, because of the fact that the rest of the defensive front that South Carolina has is so talented. You're not going to be able to help too much this week. So I'm worried a little. I'm a little worried, but I'm also anticipatory. I'm anxious to see how Elijah Pritchett does this week against these two edge rushers. Because if you can play against these two guys, then there's nobody else on the rest of the schedule that will threaten you. There's no, I mean, of course, there are guys that will threaten you, but there's nobody else that you will be able to look at and say, oh, I can't handle that guy. So it's going to be huge this week. If Alabama's offense wants to start fast, if you do want to erase the bad feelings, the bad taste from the Vanderbilt loss, then you're going to have efficient offense. And you can wreck efficient offense with a badass edge rusher. And so if Elijah Pritchett is struggling on Saturday, will you see Wilkin Formby? Will you see Tyler Booker moving around and get Gino Vanderbark into the game? Look, I think that's the biggest question mark for this game is how will the Alabama offensive line deal with the South Carolina defensive front? Will they make things clean for Jalen Milroe? If they are, then I believe in Jalen Milroe's skill sets. If things get muddied, then okay, will Jalen Milroe, will he struggle protecting the ball? Will he will a sack fumble happen? Will the picture change and maybe he throws an errant football? I think that becomes the real crux of this game. When you're looking at Alabama and South Carolina, you see it on tape. You see 22-point favorite, and you see, wow, okay, this South Carolina offense should be relatively simple to stop. You should be able to win your boxes and stop these guys. But if the South Carolina defensive front, that's where havoc can happen. That's where chaos can happen. For South Carolina to pull this upset, you look at last week and you thought, okay, if Diego Pavia, if they can suck the ball, if they can drain the clock, that's what they did. If South Carolina can get after Jalen Milroe, can create a turnover or two or three, if South Carolina can get you into third and longs, if they are rushing 3, dropping 8, making it really tough for Jalen to fit the ball in, but if they're winning with 3, because this defensive front is for real. This defensive front is the real deal. It's a top 5 defensive front in college football. You look at PFF, according to Chris Kapilovich, they're the number 1 defensive front in college football. I don't know if they're quite that, but they're definitely a top 5 defensive front. And so that's where the havoc can happen. You saw the pick 6 with Vanderbilt. If you get yourself a turnover, you get yourself into trouble. If you can't run the football, if you're going 3 and outs, putting stress on your defense because you can't move the ball, that becomes a problem. And that becomes my biggest worry. And so that's why Elijah Pritchett becomes my 3rd player of the game. I think that his performance is going to be paramount. If Elijah Pritchett can handle one of these edge rushers, Kennard or Dylan Stewart, on his own, then the rest of the line I feel pretty confident in. I know I'm confident in Jam Miller's ability to help the line. I'm pretty confident in Justice's ability to help the line as well. It's all up to, in my opinion, Elijah Pritchett. So those are my 3 players of the game. I'm taking Jam Miller because of South Carolina's propensity to be kind of gashed up, to allow some opposing running backs to do some work to them. I'm taking Malachi Moore for the motivation factor because of all the things that have surrounded Malachi Moore in the last almost week. And I'm taking Elijah Pritchett because Alabama needs him on Saturday. Alabama needs a big performance out of Elijah Pritchett because his assignment is massive. His assignment is huge. It's going to be him and Caden Proctor dealing with Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. So those two guys, if those two guys have a strong day, then I think the Alabama offense will perform pretty well. And I think everybody goes home, leaves Bryant-Denny Stadium feeling happy. So that's going to do it for our programs today. We, again, so much appreciate Derek Daniel for letting us hang out in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios right here in Northport. You can come visit him today. We're right off McFarland Boulevard, past the Tiger Rock on the left. Call him, 205-758-3391. Call and see how much Derek can save you today. We also appreciate Druid City Music Hall for sponsoring the program. We were out at Red Farron last night. You can see druidcitymusichall.com/shows for all of their shows. They've got a full weekend ahead of them, so make sure you get down to Druid City Music Hall. They're the premier live music spot on the Strip right here in Tuscaloosa. If you are looking to feel young again, trying to feel that college vibe a little bit, but don't want to get into the mess that much, Druid City Music Hall is the perfect place for you, right in between the Waffle House and the Glory Bound. the premier live music spot on the Strip. So we appreciate Druids Hitting Music Hall, Derek Daniel at State Farm, and Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program. We'll be back with a Football Friday tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.